Google
Anybody
is
has
bad
any clue?
news. Don't Google.
That's why. Correct. I don't want to do that. So anyway, with that being said, you're welcome, Madridistas, for my jinx. I thought I'd throw you guys a bone, seeing how terrible your season has been so far, and it worked. Vinny stepped up, did what he had to do. Bada bing, bada boom. 2 goals and a solid victory for Real Madrid against Elche, and a win as well.
When you say terrible, like, to me, terrible is reserved for a team that isn't sitting on 24 points after 11 games. That's I don't know. Like, I agree with you, this is not peak Real Madrid, but I feel like terrible is a bit of a stretch. You're just trying to make yourself feel better about Barcelona's situation. And again, I don't think Real Madrid is in a fantastic situation, but is terrible really the right word? Underwhelming.
I think collectively, I'm not impressed with what we're seeing from Real Madrid. I think there's certain individual players, Vinicius, Benzema, that are standing out of the pack. But I think, if you're a Madridista and you're hoping to win silverware this season, you desperately would want this team to improve to compete for those titles. And I got some shit from some of our listeners on Twitter when I mentioned that I don't believe that this Real Madrid will be able to compete with the big, well, I shouldn't say big teams, but yeah, with the favorites, let's say this year's favorites in the Champions League, mentioning that, of course, Madrid did play the semifinals last season, but
and got waxed, by the way.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Thank you for finishing that thought. Didn't I say compete in the semifinal? Compete is a stretch because, as you said, they got waxed. So, and I continue to believe that this team is very far from being a realistic contender. Obviously, anything can happen in Champions League, but I don't think the let's say the betting odds are in favor for this team to be a serious contender. So when I say terrible, yeah, I compare them to previous seasons, to other seasons. And of course, I mean, this is churros, my friend. Obviously, it's tongue in cheek. Obviously, it's a little bit of digging into our each other's sides. We like to stir the pot and see if we can get some reactions going, so that we have a little bit more to add a little bit of spice, let's say, to this podcast. And it makes me feel just a little bit better when I see 0-0 draws against Osasuna on days where Barca have nothing to cheer for neither. So, yes, is the short answer to your question.
I would say, like, they're in tier 2 of teams. So if tier 1 is Manchester City, Liverpool, Bayern, Chelsea, in my opinion, unless I'm having a brain fart and I'm missing somebody, in my opinion, those are the 4. And then tier 2, and the reason I didn't put PSG in there is because I don't know, despite them being absolutely loaded like a machine gun, I just don't know what to expect from them right now. Like, we don't really know. For what we've seen so far hasn't been impressive, but does that mean they're not part of it? I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think you put together those players on that team, regardless of how bad their tactics are and how badly they mesh, I wouldn't want to play against them. It takes 1 or 2 moments of individual brilliance for them to beat you. So I guess by default you put them in that top tier, sure. And I think I put Real Madrid in tier 2. Who's in that tier? Real Madrid, Atletico. I have trouble putting Manchester United there.
Got to put Ajax in there.
Sure, maybe even a Dortmund. They're probably maybe Ajax and Dortmund may be in tier 3, although maybe that's arrogant to say. They could very well.
Oh, that's unfair.
Yeah, maybe not Dortmund. Ajax, sure. But it's almost like, for me, Real Madrid are not tier 1 or tier B. They're kind of like 1B. You know what I mean? Because on their day, they can beat the 1As, but they can also lose to the Cs. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to gauge them. And historically, this is Real Madrid, right? We've discussed this to death. Historically, Real Madrid at even level C or D can beat A and win Champions League somehow by some God-given the footballing god. So
Yeah.
So anyways, my point is that I agree with you. I don't think you're wrong in saying that Real Madrid are not in that top level. And if people want to point to that Chelsea game on aggregate, probably a fair aggregate for that would have been 5-0 on aggregate for Chelsea because they just got absolutely smacked.
Oh, that's big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the XG total was literally 5-1 or something over the course of 2 legs. I mean,
that first game was
Chelsea couldn't finish. Yeah. That was their problem. They couldn't finish, but they were just getting point blank chance after point blank chance, and we just couldn't stop them. So if they could actually finish, and they had Lukaku last season, I think it could have been something like 4 or 5-0 on aggregate, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. I think tier 2, maybe 2B is where I would probably put them. I think that's fair. And it's not to offend anybody. I mean, I think you and we have this podcast so that we can express our opinions freely, and everybody's free to disagree, obviously. And if there's certain people take kind upon these upon this my opinion or this analysis of the current state of Real Madrid, then so be it. It's I think it's realistic, and then also I'm just listening to you just confirms that my judgment is not far off. So,
but I will say I think their ceiling is higher this season because last season I wrote about this yesterday. Just the fact that Vinicius has taken this leap. Benzema didn't have any help last season. Now he has this version of Vinicius, which makes a difference, right? It has to. Yeah. It has to. Yeah. And also, look, I mean, like we looked at Rodrigo's been good this season. We looked at losing Ramos and Varane, and obviously when you look at that, it's very, very easy to say we're not as good as we were last season. And de facto speaking, defensively, we're not as good as we were last season. But Alaba's fit in beautifully, and the good thing about Alaba is that
absolutely
he's playing. Ramos, as great as he is, missed so much time last season. That's a whole fiasco and a whole podcast of what's happening with him at PSG. He hasn't played yet. They're reportedly upset. They're looking. I don't really buy the reports that I don't know if you saw it, Diego. The reports that his contract.
Yeah, I did.
The reason I don't buy it is because what's the point of terminating the contract? You're going to have to pay his salary anyway if you terminate it. So you might as well just keep him in as a presence, even if he's not playing. I don't really see the logic in, unless they really don't care about the money and they want to free up a roster spot to sign a defender in the wintertime, then I guess it would make sense. But a great storyline would be if they terminate his contract, pay him out, and then he just signs for Real Madrid for free for like a pay cut. As like this, just welcome back, Sergio. I'd like that.
No, Papa Flo would never do that. He wouldn't.
You don't think? I don't think he would either. Like he's not the type of person who would bring a figure like that back. But I mean, if it like lines up where he's like completely free and he takes a pay cut because he's already been paid out by PSG anyway, so he's getting his money, he's getting his bag, and he's just there as a locker room presence. Could work, but yeah, you're right. It's not a likely scenario, but it's one that I would entertain at least.
What exactly is the lowdown over in Camp Bernabeu when it comes to Ramos? I mean, was there any inclination, any sense that this injury was so severe and would keep him sidelined for this long? What is going on?
No, I mean, I believe the last game he played was the Chelsea second leg. Or one of those Chelsea games, and it was a rush back scenario apparently because he hasn't played since, and we all thought he was going to be back for the Euros. We just we didn't know that he wouldn't have been able to play the Euros anyway if Lucho had called him up. We all thought he was good to go by then. So it's a little bit of a surprising lingering effect for sure that we just didn't know. So I think they probably rushed him back for Chelsea. They did rush him back for Chelsea. It's not even probably. They did rush him back for Chelsea. And now we're dealing with this situation where, doesn't look so bad now that Real Madrid didn't re-sign him. Even last season when he was playing, you could see that he had lost a little bit of a step. He was having trouble keeping up with speedy attackers. And now you just look at the situation and you miss his leadership. I think you miss a lot of things, and even Ramos at 80% of his powers is still an amazing asset to have, and he's probably just going to score some goals from you if nothing else. But I think they just rushed him back for Chelsea, and now PSG are paying for it. Don't you love that? PSG are paying for it.
I do like that. I like that a lot, and I liked it even more. Reading some of the statements that Messi had in his interview with Sport, and talking about some of the things that are going down over in the club from Paris. But just to finish the thoughts or my thoughts, and I'd love to know yours as well on Real Madrid. I mean, let's keep it into context. Let's keep in context as well the game. Obviously, your Madrid faced Elche away. The away part making it perhaps a little bit more uncomfortable for Madrid, but they didn't get they weren't able to seal the deal until the red card, of course. And up until that moment, Elche even had a chance to get the draw just before halftime. How do you see this? Madrid. This was a game that they win, coming off of the 0-0, of course, against Osasuna. Did it convince you in its entirety? Did you walk away satisfied? Obviously, the 2 goals of Vinny were great, but all in all, was this a convincing win for you?
No. What I said in my article yesterday, and I stand by it, is that I don't think we win this game last season with last year's version of Vinicius and no Benzema. And I think we actually drew away to Elche last season with Benzema. And Elche, I've always liked the way Elche play, by the way. Side note, I think Elche is just kind of, anytime I watch them play, and it's not often, I really like them. So that is, like in this game, like Pastore gave us problems. Boya gave us problems. Raul Guti gave us problems, even though he got a red card and he went out the field. But I remember like earlier in the season, or maybe I think that was one of the solo podcasts, someone said like, who was just like this under radar young La Liga player that you like? And for me, it was Raul Guti is one of them, and not just because of his name. I've always liked the way he plays. Anyway, that aside, I wasn't. It's
like a wet dream for any Madridista, isn't it?
Raul Guti, yeah.
His parents must have been Madridistas.
It's like being called Xavi Iniesta, or like
exactly.
Lionel Gaucho or something. I was not impressed. I mentioned that on the podcast on Saturday night. I thought it was an underwhelming performance. I thought we defended very poorly. I think we had good individual performances defensively and offensively, but as a collective, I did not like our defensive shape or our offensive ability, or our offensive execution, rather. So that needs to be changed. And it was one of those games where you're like, let's just get the 3 points and get the hell out of here and move on to the next one. And that's it. So, Benzema wasn't playing. I guess we can mention that. Modric you didn't have a very good game. Casemiro made a big mistake, which led to Elche's goal. So no, I wasn't impressed, to answer your question, but we take the W and we celebrate Vinicius's brilliance, which, of course, as you should. Great.
As you should.
Yeah.
Happy with Militao, I suppose.
Militao's been good. Alaves been good. Casemiro good defensively, even despite that mistake. Marcelo not so good in this game. Mendy was on the bench. When Mendy's there, probably it's a bit better defensively overall. And Rodrigo got injured, and so we saw him come off the field.
I sense, yeah.
Mariano Diaz starting in this game. So there's all that to consider. But this is crazy. What are we in, like half hour into this podcast, and you're just avoiding the Barca. By the way, Barca aside, we had a Basque derby this weekend. We had Valencia versus Villarreal. We had like all these poor Spanish teams just get no attention from us. It's just so disrespectful, man.
That's it is what it is. It is what it is. Also, I mean, our schedules just allow us to have that much time to dedicate to each team, let's say, and it is what it is. I try to keep up with it all, and it's managing all of this. Time management in general is probably what gave me this half face numbness. But Well, look, let's move on to Barca, if you will. So good win for Real Madrid, getting the 3 points under uncomfortable circumstances. But more uncomfortable was watching, of course, the 1-0 draw of Barca against Alaves over in the Camp Nou. I mean, where do you want to take this, my friend? It was the first game in charge of the interim coach Sergi Barjuan. He had, I believe, 48 hours with the team, just 2 practices before this game. Koeman, of course, relieved from his duties as head coach, just following the match against Rayo made this match just an awkward one for players, for fans, for Sergi, who prior to that was the Barça B coach. I'm assuming that he will go back to the Barça B once Xavi arrives. So in Spain there's a saying. It goes entrenador nuevo, victoria asegurado, something along those lines, excuse me, and it translates as new coach, victory assured. I think also statistics show that more often than not, when a team fires a coach and the new coach comes in, it's likely that this team will rebound with a victory. It looked like that was potentially the case for Barca, as Memphis curled in that beauty from outside the box. His second attempt, he had tried it just moments prior, but that effort got blocked. But I mean, we didn't even have time to celebrate that goal before Alaves had an absolute ridiculous. I mean, talk about a beautiful play. I don't know if you saw it yourself, Kiyan. I invite everybody to watch it once, twice, 3 times in slow motion from as many angles as possible, because it's a thing of beauty. Yeah, absolute gorgeous goal.
When it happened in real time, Diego, sorry to cut you off. When it happened in real time, I didn't know that. Like in the replay, it shows the artistry very well, because Joselu's pass in a tight space.
Joselu's pass is ridiculous.
And in real time, you don't really realize what happened. You just think the ball kind of bounced around and it was tight space, and they luckily got through. But it was very intentional, very, very well executed.
Very much so, very much so. And just a beautiful goal, really. I mean, if we would have seen, Messi and Xavi or Iniesta, produce that, we would have been celebrating and talking about just how great of an artist they are on the football pitch, and the same has to be said about Joselu and that pass, of course, as well as Luis Roja, of course, for scoring and finishing that play. But just a great play all around. Very little, I in case that the Barca defenders could do, even though they were surrounding Joselu. And a goal out of those circumstances, I think 99 times out of 100 would have been prevented. And that's even though Eddie Garcia had a fantastic game. So there were quite a few positives that I took out of this game, Kiyan, to your surprise perhaps. But, I thought Memphis did very, very well. And again, going back to his more, say, offensive ways and looking for that goal. We saw also Kun Agüero, who of course had to be substituted very early on, also try his luck from outside. I feel that this team just wants to see the ball end up in the back of the net by any means. And I almost feel like if that happens, it might open the floodgates. We had Serginho Dest again as well with good chances, with very good chances that just simply, they were not capitalized on. I think Sivera did not have to do that much. I feel that the chances were more coming right at him as opposed to him having to do acrobatic goalkeeper-like saves. But at least we're getting the chances in. Again, it was one of those games where I feel that on another day, or had we had Messi out in the field, we would have walked away with sort of a hard-fought, call it an ugly win. that this season, the same that you said, you felt that Real Madrid would have lost the game against Elche last season. I feel that Barca would have won this maybe last season as opposed to, this season. The ball's just not going in at the moment. And it's unfortunate because the chances are there. We saw Gavi have a great moments of individual skill, dribbling past the defenders and still getting great passes off to Memphis, who again couldn't capitalize. Similar, I mean, we saw, was it the 2-0 or the 2-1 with the Vinicius chip? Yeah, that was his second goal.
The second one, yeah.
Memphis had a similar play with Gavi where he gets the ball fed to him and he just chips it and it hits the post. Then Nico as well. I thought Nico had an excellent game. Also beautiful, like a Laudrup-like pass. Robert called it in the show, and he was accurate. I mean, it was a great pass over the last defensive line to Memphis, who again, couldn't finish it, unfortunately. But there were good moments there, good intentions, and the team's in a funk. There's that's not a big mystery. And I hope that, if we're able to get through this ginormous, humongous match tomorrow against Kiev, if we're able to get up a win, that maybe we can start rebuilding based on that. But right now, for the moment, things are dire, things are critical, and Barca is in a funk. Barca's in a funk. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, there's part of me that looks at this game and the fact that Alaves had 3 shots, 2 of them weren't really that threatening. One of them obviously led to a beautiful goal. Barca had a bunch of chances. Memphis had 2 great chances in the box. Eric Garcia had a big chance in the box. That just kind of like most games, that the kind of things just bounce your way and you win that game. So it's kind of a weird one to dissect. For me, to be quite honest, a lot of it was hard for me to watch this game because I was kind of just bored, and that's my honest opinion. And I don't know, maybe it was also because the Camp Nou just depressed me in that game. There was the attendance was insanely low. It was in the 30,000s, and there were no restrictions. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. And also, my mind just wanders a lot in the off-field stuff in moments like that. And, I was thinking about weird things to think about, but I was thinking about how, as if you're just a football fan and you're not even a Barca fan, but just a football fan, you're kind of just mad because if Koeman had just stayed with the Dutch national team, they would have had a good run in the international tournament, and you wouldn't have had this tarnished legacy for a club legend. And it just felt like that would have been better. And now, he's not taking the 5 million. He's not forgiving that 5 million that he's owed, and he rightfully so. He shouldn't. My mind just goes to
12.
Is it 12? I just read 5 in sport, I think it was. But
The club is reportedly trying to lower it down to 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
But the clause stipulates, they say it's 12. So
just the vibes were kind of.
Well, look, I understand. Look, I mean, with regards to the attendance, yes, this has been an issue, and the explanation for it are perhaps various. A lot of the elderly socios still feel uncomfortable going to public places.
True.
They cannot yet. There's still a process in place where they will be able to sort of, let's say, pass on their seats or something, and still allowing them, let's say, legally. So instead of a reventa, instead of having to resell their places for them to do it legally, there's some process still in place. Then, the hour that these games are played, you're trying to look for excuses, obviously, as to why the attendance is so low. And what it really, what it boils down to is probably an accumulation or a mix of these factors where, the team is what it is. The prices of the tickets are still steep. The age factor of the people holding those seats, the reventa, right? The resale of these tickets and the process that is in at the moment. However, on the day of the Clásico, it was in nearly a packed house. So having said that, Kiyan, and I really would like to reiterate this, you do get a sense that the fans are eager, and I mentioned this on the podcast last time, are very desperate and eager and keen to get behind the team and to support the team. There would have been many, many instances where after Joselu or Rioja, puts in the 1-0, that is, the stadium would have erupted, or the fans that would have been there would have not, stood for that, and they would have let their voices heard with whistles, with boos, etc. And at the moment, we're seeing the complete opposite. We saw the same in the Clásico as well. It's get behind the team, venga animar, let's go and support the team until the very last minute. Let's try to get something good, something positive going. And I have to commend my fellow culés for that, because, again, historically, these times, like this much support for the team is not something that Barca supporters are known for. It's the approach is a lot more critical and a lot more demanding. Whereas now, given the circumstances of the club and everything that's happened for the past season or two, I feel that the fans are just eager. Now that they're back in the stadium, the few that are there, the privileged few, let's call them, are really just eager to try to get the positive vibes. Emit these positive vibes to the team, and I appreciate that. I'm sure the players do too. So that on a positive note. Now, what else did you say? There was something else I had to comment on.
I think I mentioned Koeman and stuff like that.
Well, the tarnished legacy. I mean, that's a conversation for a whole podcast in and of itself. I don't think that Koeman could have let this train, pass by.
I think he's been a coach. Point,
yeah, I mean, he's been a coach for a long, long time now. I think it's nearly 2 decades where he, started assistant coach under Louis van Gaal at Barca, then made his way around Europe, from Portugal to England to Holland, to Spain as well, Valencia, of course. And this is the club. This is his Barca. This is his club. He's nowhere is he as big of a legend as he is here. And although perhaps his coaching career is tarnished, I think that's still a stretch. I mean, I think he still has the ability to redeem himself with another squad. But Koeman, the player, the person, I assure you that his legacy is not tarnished over at Football Club Barcelona, where we all still respect him very much so and hold him in very high regard. Koeman, the person first, and then the player second. So he's very much loved still.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, obviously, I should also say that most people who appreciate football and have the respect and understand what he's done for Barcelona as a player, this won't get in the way of that. And also, time heals all wounds. And maybe
he didn't get run out of town, like we see often happen with managers. It wasn't, that the culés were with pitchforks and torches screaming for his head.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case.
Although that video, there was one ugly video outside the Camp Nou, which made me sad and annoyed. But
all if you notice in that video, all very young kids. I'll go on a limb to say even teenagers. I doubt even some of those kids were in their 20s.
Just the damn youths.
The damn kids,
got to show some respect for your elders.
Absolutely.
I have to go to take Luca to an appointment, but before we wrap it up, can you tell me?
Wow, this flew by.
Yeah.
How long have we been going for?
I don't know, that's what she said, but 40 minutes? I don't know, maybe 40 minutes.
Okay. All right.
Oh yeah,
it's Stallion.
Xavi reportedly bringing his buddy Puyol to set people straight. So what's the percentage? Is it still high? This is Monday show. You can't reveal that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, Xavi Hernandez, welcome to Camp Nou in December, and I hope that.
No, well, nobody knows, when.
Yeah. Well, maybe Barca should just pick up the phone and call Al Sadd to at least start the process of getting that guy out of his massive, expensive contract. That would be step one. If not, Sergi Barjuan, man, taking Barca home to glory. All right, I gotta go.
It's a big game tomorrow. Big game. Cannot be understated. Barca's got to win.
Very excited.
They got to win.
Very excited. Also, on a separate note, that I'll be at the Wednesday game at the Bernabeu against Shakhtar, and it'll be my first game back at the Bernabeu since El Clasico 2020. So, looking forward to that.
Wow. Yeah. Big one that. Yeah. So that's a milestone. Be good to have you back on familiar territory close by as well.
Yep.
And looking forward to that. By the way, Araujo, Frenkie de Jong, Dembele, and Ansu Fati, all four back for tomorrow as well, and being called up as well. So we have the chance, the first time, to see a front three made up of Ansu, Memphis, and Dembele. That's something I'm looking forward to. Let's see what happens. Okay.
Good luck, my friend.
All right, man. Likewise.
And we'll chat Friday over on patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas. And you do not want to miss out on the Friday Raw Churros exclusive. So make sure you join it.
You never do.
It's like $3 per month minimum to get in. It's like cheaper than a churro, basically.
And just so good.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Diego. Take care, buddy. Talk soon.
Thanks, dude. You too. Peace.